We're very close to capitulation event, so today I want us to go through a couple of charts and see where we are heading. Are we close to reaching the bottom and how far we can go to the downside? First of all, Bitcoin's capitulation metric has printed its second largest spike in 2 years, highlighting basically a sharp escalation in forced selling. These stress events that we see right now typically coincide with accelerated de-risking and elevated volatility as market participants reset positioning. We see, for example, Binance keeps buying, we see Michael Saylor keeps buying, at the same time we see BlackRock selling, we see Bhutan, their government selling. So we see participants repositioning. Vitalik, if you wish, he's selling some of his Ethereum. We'll go through what Vitalik says and thinks shortly. And right now, our favorite projects are not pumping, they are not in the hype, they are slowly dying, but I can tell you that they're not dying. Yes, you can see that they're in the red zone, but they are quietly building the next phase of infrastructure. So we'll break down some of the our long-term potential projects. Let's start with Bitcoin. We just dropped below 70k level, and Bitcoin is currently trading around a strong key horizontal support resistance level where the 200 moving average is acting as solid support. We lost the 50 moving average, we lost the 100 moving average, now we are coming very close to the 200 moving average, which is a very, very critical point. As observed in the past, a similar scenario has already played out, and as long as price continues, and I think we're going to see a bounce off the 200 moving average, which in my opinion would mark the bottom at around the lower 60s level, this is where it would bounce back up, and in my opinion that would be the bottom. Of course, I could be wrong, no one can fully predict that, but the best strategy would be start thinking of accumulating Bitcoin and other projects once we enter the mid to low 60s. But as long as price holds above this level, touches it, and then we might see a strong bullish rally on the upside. That could be expected, but this zone is very important for the next directional move. So let's keep a close eye on this price action here. All the technical analysis will be available on my Discord. If you wish to join, you can find the link in the description below. Now, I want to talk about we'll monitor Bitcoin, but as Bitcoin drops, altcoins continue bleeding. And we are close to reaching the bottom for some of these altcoins. If you've been watching my videos regularly, I said in the past that once we enter a bear market, I see one project that would start going up, and that is Caspa. I never lost my conviction in Caspa, and this was my theory. Caspa entered the downtrend for a very, very long time now, probably for the past year or so, but I never lost my conviction, and I was saying that once we go into a bear market where the other altcoins would also be bleeding, Caspa would be one of the projects that we would first see the bottom in. So I think very soon we're going to see Caspa starting to move to the upside. Probably that's going to be one of the projects that would first reach the bottom together potentially with Ethereum. And I hope the turnaround for Solana would also come very soon. They're probably one candle away from a reversal, but we'll talk about that shortly. Vitalik, something interesting that why I want to talk about Caspa. Vitalik recently wrote a post that on the surface is about Ethereum layer 2s, but if you read between the lines, it sounds like he might be describing something very, very different. So originally, layer 2s were supposed to scale Ethereum. They were scaling solutions of Ethereum, like extra lanes on the same highway, fully secured by Ethereum itself. But Vitalik says two things has changed now. First, Ethereum layer 1 is scaling much faster than expected. Fees are low, gas limits are increasing, and layer 1 doesn't need layer 2s just to survive anymore. The second thing is that many layer 2s never fully become trustless. Some rely on multisigs, admin keys, or even say that they would never become fully decentralized, which means they aren't really Ethereum shards at all. Vitalik's conclusion is interesting. He says that we should stop pretending layer 2s are just extensions of layer 1 and instead accept that some systems are tightly secured by Ethereum, others trade trust for speed or features, and users should clearly understand the guarantees. He also says that if layer 1s can scale, then the scaling is no longer a good enough reason to build on layer 2. Instead, real value comes from pushing verification and security back to the base layer while letting execution happen elsewhere. So This might sound familiar to you if you're into tech, if you understand technology at a deeper level. I personally don't, but I did my research, I spoke to others in the space who are very tech oriented. And that is very close to what Kaspa is doing. That's why I wanted to share this post of Vitalik. Kaspa isn't betting on layers on top of layers. Kaspa is scaling layer 1 directly, using a block DAG for high throughput. So instead of rollups, Kaspa is working on VIPROX, which is off-chain programs verified by cryptographic proofs, and some stronger base layer rules that enable complex behavior without full smart contracts. In other words, this is what exactly Vitalik is pointing towards. Even if he's talking about Ethereum, he is basically describing the solution of Kaspa and what Kaspa is, the Kaspa's philosophy, what Kaspa is trying to achieve, which is very, very bullish. And I think the future of crypto looks a lot more layer 1 centric than people expect themselves. That's why I never lost my conviction in Kaspa, and I'm holding this project for long term. And I can personally see now Vitalik slowly saying that layer 2s are no longer needed and there are better solutions out there, indirectly, implying that Kaspa is one of those projects trying to solve this. And this is what Kaspa is all about from day one. They didn't change the philosophy later on. That's been their philosophy from day one. And the chart looks pretty good. It still has, I would say, where to go to the downside, but we are reaching strong support zone over here, and potentially, as I said, what is coming up for Kaspa, we might see this project reaching the bottom pretty quickly and starting to gain traction again. That's Kaspa. Another one that I hold and I'm accumulating is SEI. It's heading into one of the most important upgrades right now. They're aiming for high throughput, extremely high throughput, which will make it one of the fastest chains in crypto, especially for trading, decentralized finance, and real-time applications. And also, SEI is gaining a lot of institutional interest and adoption. So definitely a project that I'm holding and I believe in. Very undervalued at this stage. SEI is a fairly new project, as you can see on the chart, since late 2023, so it doesn't have that much of a history to really analyze the chart such as Bitcoin, but it has an interesting descending. It's been forming this kind of interesting descending channel, which we just broke below. So I hope the bottom for SEI is almost there and we can go back to its previous price of $1, or even above that if more liquidity now comes into the picture. That's SEI. And by the way, I can't say really for sure where the bottom for SEI would be. It can go much lower, but one project which I think is very close to reaching the bottom is Ethereum. It's already under the 200 moving average line, as you can see here in red, and it's always bouncing back in previous bear markets in the yellow trend line that I've marked over here. We are close to that. So once we reach that, we might see Ethereum moving up, despite of if Bitcoin continues to the downside. One project which I think would reach the bottom pretty quickly is Ethereum. Now, finally, my probably biggest bet for 2026 is SEI. SEI is expanding beyond just being a fast layer 1. The roadmap is now including native privacy features, which is a big thing for 2026, gasless stablecoin payments, and better user level abstractions. So it's also doubling down on its full stack vision, combining execution, storage, identity, and off-chain compute. So that there is also a strong push towards enterprise and institutional use cases, not just retail decentralized finance. So really, my big bet is on SEI for 2026 because I see it's positioning itself as infrastructure for mainstream and institutional adoption, not just crypto native users, retail investors, and that's where the next wave of growth usually comes from. And even if we look at the chart, I can see that SEI can move further to the downside. Potentially it's just dropped to $1. Maybe it's coming close to the zone where we first started buying it at 40, 60, 80 cents in that area. And this would be again a zone where I would buy SEI, because I personally see this project going to a 2-digit number in 2026. Definitely a very good one. And we can really see the interest of institutions on that project. What I would say is, let's wait, monitor the price for Bitcoin if we drop to the mid 60s, and the best approach would be to scale in and scale out. What I mean by that is, don't go all in at once. When Bitcoin reaches like 65k, maybe start buying, and then DCA, the dollar cost averaging method, if the price keeps going down. But I personally think that we are very close to bottoming out, and the move to the upside I think will happen pretty quickly, because we dropped from 126k to now below 70k in just 2 months. These moves are happening very, very quickly, very sharp moves. So if the move to the downside is so sharp, I think the recovery would be pretty violent as well. So just be ready. Make sure you are having a plan in your head and you're acting according to this plan. That's very important. So that's for me today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.